softball and the Fireballs and Colfax? And I said, yeah, sure. I said, I've never been a loss for words, so. But I wanted to thank everybody for coming today. And what we're going to try to do is just cover some things, how baseball and softball started in Colfax, and then how the Fireballs started. Actually, you guys are a part of history right now. This building we're sitting in used to be the Memorial Hall at Colfax before they built the one up on the hill. And this is where they played basketball. And these walls weren't here, and the court was longer. And actually, the name Fireballs derived in basketball season 47 by Woody Hill, brought the name with him. And the Fireballs were a basketball team first, and then they took it the next year into hardball and then softball. That was the first year they played the Rats Valley was 1948. And not to forget the girls softball team is called the Fireflies. And there's a lot of people in this room whose mothers were on that team. So and I'll name them off in a little bit. But can anybody tell me where the first baseball diamond in Colfax was? Mike or Connie?
By the roundhouse out by the depot.
Connie, you just beat Maynard. Maynard pointed It did. The first baseball diamond in Colfax used to be down past where the fruit growers fruit sheds is. There's a roundhouse down there, and they cut a baseball diamond in there. And Colfax, they play Iowa Hill, Michigan Bluff. Mining was big back there in the 1890s and stuff. And all these town teams had ball clubs. And then the SP needed to cut another line behind that roundhouse, and so that's when they moved it to Rising Sun Estates, where the Colfax High School is now. And we have a photo of that on one of the, I think it's the one over there, at the very bottom one. Hold that up, Brian. There on the left is the Rising Sun mine baseball field with the well, it wasn't the Fireballs. They were the Colfax Blues back then. They had blue uniforms. And Scoop Thurman, who was the editor of the Colfax Record, he was the secretary of the Placer Nevada League. And the pink sporting section up there above that, if you played in the Placer Nevada League, wherever you were, Roseville, Lincoln, Grass Valley, Nevada City, you got one of those in the mail every week. They had all the batting results, the scores, the games next week, and he'd interject all his little comments and that, if there's a bad call or whatever like that. Go ahead and hold that up one more time. And then the top photo there on the left is the Colfax Blues of 1914. And then the top photo on the right is the Colfax Blues, the first year of the Placer Nevada League, 1922. And if you see the big tall guy in the back, that is Grandpa Hutchinson. And we have two of his granddaughters here today, Lori and Chris. Okay. And we want to talk about bloodlines. Grandpa Hutch in that picture there, Frank Valley always told me this, I told him he was full of you know what. But his dad played in the major leagues, 17 at-bats with the Chicago Cubs, 1893 or something like that. So those bloodlines go all the way to Frank Powley, because that's his grandpa too, right? Am I correct? Yeah.
Right.
Frank Powley's a Fireball. Even further, you start talking about high school sports. Michelle Cornell is Lori's daughter, and then Macy played on the NorCal Girls Championship team, and then the two Hyman boys, also outstanding athletes. So these bloodlines go way, way back, and it's come full circle. Yeah, go ahead.
They're in the Army now.
Are they in the Army now? There you go. Okay.
That's a song.
So anyway, the baseball, the first team was the Colfax Blues. They started in 1922 in the Placer Nevada League, and then they went to, I think in the middle of the 30s, they were the Colfax Lions. And then they got out to the 40s, and they were playing, there was no league during the war, but then after the war, things started to pick up. And the Placer Nevada League had a rule, you had to either live or not two outside guys. So anyway, they started the Placer Nevada baseball team was still the Colfax team. It just said the Colfax team, no name. And then Woody Hill moved to Colfax. He was working for the railroad. And I chatted with his daughter, Lynette, who lives up in Edmonds, Washington right now. And I asked her, I said, do you know where your dad got that name? And Fireballs. And she said, well, I think it had to do something with a railroad term when a wheel got hot or something like that. So anyway, I said, okay, we're going to go with that, like that. And so they had the basketball team started here, 1947. And then the next year, the baseball team started. Excuse me, the softball team started. And they used that name, and Scoop Thurman, in one of his stories, said, hey, we are going to go, the Fireballs are going to be the moniker or the mascot for all these Colfax teams now. And Scoop Thurman was an interesting guy. He was actually born in Port Townsend, Washington. A lot of people here know where that's at. And they moved when he was young to Portland, and then he went to San Francisco, Sacramento, and then he moved to Colfax for his health reasons, a lot nicer climate up here.
Tuberculosis.
Yeah, and then he was actually the postmaster here at Colfax for 1 year, and then he got, I guess you could call it, he got trumped. Because he was a Republican and a Democrat won the presidency, probably Hoover or Roosevelt. So Scoop was out as the postmaster. But he was a state assemblyman, and he was a state senator, and just avid backer of everything in Colfax. And he wrote a story in 1941 that complained about how bad Colfax's field at Rising Sun was. There was rattlesnakes out in the outfield, big rocks and boulders, a ditch in right field that water ran through it, and it was ground double if it went in. But he looked around and says, you know, there's not very much flat land in Colfax to build a new park. So they put their heads together, and Connie and Marcia knows a lot about this, is that's when they took down the side of that hill and carved in the Colfax Living War Memorial Park. That's the first game played in that picture, the big picture right there, 1949. So anyway, back then the Fireballs, they were playing baseball and they were playing softball. And unfortunately, Scoop passed away in 1954. And then they dedicated the score booth and the snack bar that's up there now at Colfax. It's got his plaque there on the side. They did that in 1958. So anyway, but as far as softball with the Fireballs, their first year, 1948, a little bit rough. You're going to a new league in Grass Valley. A lot of the players over there have been playing for a while, because they have a junior league over there where they start you young. And so here at the Fireballs, I don't know if anybody knew how to throw underhand. And I think they lost like their first 6 games in a row. And then they had a 2-game winning streak. And they ended up in next to last place, 12 teams, they were next to last. But they were trying out different pitchers. And the first Fireballs team was Woody Hill, Ed Fontana, Jim Henry, Rodden Kewen, Bruno Ritchie, Bob Senek, Mondo Shalini, Bill Emery, Dave Marson, Gene Maynard, Bob Yoakum, and James Davies, like that. And the Fireflies girls softball team was Herba Shepard, Charlene West, Alice Soule, Dottie Barnes, Betty Erickson, Rita Ritchie, and Barbara Campbell. So anyway, there's people in this room related to everybody. So anyway, the Fireballs after that 48 season, they started to get better. 49, they were 500 and made the O'Shaughnessy playoffs, which is the top 4 teams. 1950, they had another winning record. 1951, Colfax finally was able to send some players over to the All-Star game that they had every year. I think Colfax's players were being blackballed the first 3 or 4 years. Nobody was getting invited. But the first All-Stars to play for Colfax in 51 was Max Elias, Gordon Farrell, and Bob Senek. And that year they tied for second with OK Pool Hall. Okay, and then in 52, they had another good year. They won the second half, and they got into a playoff, but they ended up losing to PSEA, which is the PG&E team. So finally, in 1953, it's kind of funny. I can remember Ed Fontana telling me these stories about, because anybody that came to the Colfax knew who worked for the railroad, Ed was always giving them a tryout. You know, kind of like, no, really, I'm serious. Kind of like Ed would always bug me, and he goes, hey Mike, he says, go up to the ballpark. He goes, there's an Army recruiter just came to town and plays for the Sonics, go check him out. Then a couple years later, hey Mike, there's a high patrolman playing shortstop out there at the ballpark, go check him out. So anyway, this guy moved to Colfax, and his name was Leo Bogardus, outstanding pitcher. And I can remember Ed Fontana telling me the story about when he was here and this and that, and they were just walking through everybody in Grass Valley. He was getting 14, 15 strikeouts a game, and they get to the championship series against PSEA, and they play game one. It's best 2 out of 3, and no Bogardus doesn't show up. And so, but Woody Hill pitched that game, and they lost 5-2. So the Grass Valley paper, because I have a website I can get on and see all these old sport pages. In the headlines the next day, Bogardus AWOL, Fireballs, chances dim. So anyway, the next game 2, okay, no Bogardus. And if I remember correctly, I think Ed Fontana said he went on a bender and nobody knew where he was. But they gave the ball to Bud Barnes to pitch that game. And Bud ended up singling in. There was an extra inning game. Ended up singling in Jim Henry with a winning run. Earlier in that game, Woody Hill and Cynic. And who's the other guy? Oh, Gordon Farrell had the other key hits. So that tied up the series 1-1. And game 3, still no Bogardus. And Bud Barnes threw a 2-hitter. His brother Kenny was the catcher that game. Gordon Farrell had a sac fly in the 7th inning that drove in the winning run. And the Fireballs won the first Nevada County championship. Okay, after that, they would go on and win 12 more, 4 more in the 1960s. I think Mike Maynard was on 2 of those teams. And then they won 4 more in the 70s and 3 more in the 80s before Lenny got mad at Grass Valley and went to Roseville.
Yeah, tell them why.
No. So anyway, but the Fireballs had the distinction. They were from 78 to 81, they won 4 championships in a row, and nobody had done that in the 45-year history of that league. So that was really kind of neat. And a lot of good memories over there. Does everybody know what the Duck Inn was?
Oh, yeah.
I was raised there.
Yeah, the Duck Inn was a watering hole across the street from the park. And Hutch always liked it when the Fireballs played because he knew he was going to have a good night. And so he had a button that had a sound of a submarine diving. Ooga, ooga. And every time the Fireballs would score a run, he'd push that button. He knew we were coming over. And Bud Barnes would always get the first round. He would, the serving trays, you usually would be able to get probably 13 or 14 on a tray. And I think they were like 35 cents each, hams or something. I don't know what it was. But yeah, a lot of fun over there.
And they were waiting for us when we got in there.
Oh yeah, exactly. So anyway, but playing for the Fireballs, like I was talking to a couple of the ex-players here today, and you'll see it on the video too that they did years back, especially with Ed Marson talking about Fireballs being kind of Ed said it's kind of a mystique, but it was more family oriented because there was brothers playing, cousins playing, uncles playing, and like Ed said, because there wasn't very many arguments in the dugout because everybody knew everybody, and we all played high school sports together. We got along, and then and like I was telling John Humphreys and even Kenny, if you couldn't take the needle in the dugout, you better pack your stuff and get out, because and people that don't know what the needle is somebody makes a bonehead play or something like that, and nobody's trying to get down on anybody like that. But somebody say, "Humps, I could have made that play blindfolded. What are you doing?" But we had all kinds of sayings. Hey, Duke, that would have been out of Idlewild. There's a ton. Some of them I can't even say here. But a lot of fun. It's a time when you're playing. As we got later in the 70s, we started to travel to Tahoe City, Reno, Chico, Orville, Santa Rosa tournaments, and we started getting involved in state stuff with the ASA. And we hosted with Grass Valley a couple state tournaments here, and had a lot of fun doing that. And I think like when I get talking about the Labor Day tournament here, I think in the 54 years of the tournament, we figured we served at least 10,000 hamburgers and went through 500 kegs of beer.
The way around.
Yeah. But the Labor Day tournament was very, a lot of fun to run. It started in 1966 as Recreation Day, and there was only 4 teams. And everything was centered up at the swimming pool. They had games for the kids. And I can remember in the Colfax record when they gave the schedule, it had to schedule the teams and when the games were starting, and it had at the very bottom, it said, last game has to be over by 2 a.m. But anyway, the tournament, it expanded. We started bringing in very good teams from out of the area. It expanded one year. We had 22 teams, and we had the high school field as a loser's bracket field, and everybody just hated to go down there. I don't even know if they had water down there today. It was bad. You went down there and you weren't coming out of there. But anyway, after all these years, we ran the tournament and stuff, and somebody came up to me and he tapped me on the shoulder. They go, "Hey, who makes these brackets up?" I go, "Well, I do. Why?" He goes, "Well, how come the Fireballs, they play Friday night at 6:45, then they don't play again until Saturday at 3, and then they're done until Sunday?" I go, "That's the Fireball bracket. You didn't know that?" But a lot of fun, a lot of interjecting with teams from out of the area. Reno teams came down. We had some great tournaments. Some of the ones I'll remember was 1973. We had won the championship over in Grass Valley that year, and that was another thing I was going to point out. The year before, in 72, the Fireballs in Grass Valley weren't very good. We were 500, but Barnes was our pitcher. Had a couple injuries and stuff, and we were kind of just spinning our wheels. And then the next year, in 73, we had the younger set of players that were coming up. Lenny was playing, Kenny and Trav, Frankie, and the younger set, and the two old guys were Kenny Barnes and Bud Barnes. But they were still contributing. Bud was on vacation, and Kenny threw a shutout to keep us in the league. And that was the year, 73, when we won it. 1 year after being so bad, and Bud Barnes was the MVP of the league that year. And he was mid-40s when he did that. So, but yeah, a lot of fun. And one of the tournaments I'll remember, that same year, 73, we were in the finals against a hot team out of Sacramento, Turnberry. And we're in a dogfight. And extra innings, I think Trav Claxton got on. And we had 2 outs, and Kenny Claxton was coming up behind him. But poor Kenny was 0 for 16 in that tournament. And we're in the dugout, and we're saying, "Hey, should we pitch it for Kenny?" And nobody wanted to tell Kenny, "Hey, you got hit." So I think he's fine. Let him go. And I remember he hit the triple at the top of the fence, tied the game up, and ended up winning on a walk-off like that. So. But anyway, yeah. 2006, the Kingdom's Court came to Colfax. And how did we pull that off? Ed Marcy Larson was the money man here for the rec, and Ed ran the rec like a businessman, just like his business. They did a really good job, and so I told Ed, I said, okay, we can get the king in his court, but it's going to cost $2,500, and we have to pick up his 3 motel rooms at Colfax Motor Lodge and 2 cases of beer or something. And so Ed says, okay, how can we do this? Because there's nowhere to charge at the ballpark for people to come, and you don't want to pass the hat because you're not going to get, the amount that you need. So I told Ed, I said, hey, let's do this. I go, let's charge the 10 teams that are in the tournament $200 more a piece to play in the tournament, but then they get 2 players or 3 players to play in the King in his Court game, on Saturday night. And oh God, the teams, they didn't even think twice. But, it ended up being a real good turnout, one of the bigger crowds we ever had up there. And if you were there, you might have witnessed one of the longest home runs I've ever seen hit up there. Off of David Anderson. But anyway, we kept that tournament going for 54 years, and then, it was a lot of work, getting the grill set up, and going to ABC and getting insurance. It just, it's, you get older, and it's, hey, why are we doing this, but anyway,
Explain to some who the king in the court was.
oh, okay. Yeah, the king in his court, it's a traveling, barnstorming pitcher and 3 guys behind him. The catcher, a first baseman, and a shortstop. They play with 4 players against regular 9-player teams. And Eddie Feiner, who made the king in his court famous, and I saw him in Elk Grove in the mid-'70s, and this, he's throwing behind his back, between his legs. He struck out Willie Mays, 10 times. And,
Pitch from second base.
yeah, pitch from second base, blindfolded. And they put on a show, though. They
Look up Eddie Feiner, look him up.
yeah, if you Google Eddie Feiner, yeah.
He was in the Marine Corps.
Yeah, good stuff. But anyway, that was fun that we were able to do that. And,
What year was that?
that was 2006. Yeah, talking back with the Fireballs over the years, the uniforms changed. It used to be just a pullover, nylon or polyester, said Post 192 on the back. Excuse me. And they had these baseball pants they were open at the end of it. My wife Cindy used to say, are you wearing your pajamas again tonight? Because that's what they played with back then. They didn't have the regular baseball pants that they have now and stuff. So anyway, and then Grass Valley had a rule that if you didn't have the regular baseball pants, you had to wear Levi's. So, and Les Eva, who ran the league over there, he was a stickler for the rules and stuff. So then Ed and Bob, being in the clothing business, they came up with the blue polyester, dark blue with orange Fireball uniforms that we wore. And they were just hotter than a pistol in the summertime when we were tournaments down in Roseville. It was 103 and 104. And just miserable playing. So anyway, Kevin, hold up. Kevin Patterson, hold up that one right behind you. This is when we made the big move to the Pittsburgh Pirate colors. Bright yellow pants, gold pants, yeah.
1980, wasn't it?
Yeah, right around there, yeah. 80, 81. And so Bob and Ed did a good job when they picked those out. And I remember we were up in Tahoe City, getting back to Ed Fontana again. I can't get away from that guy. And we beat Parada to win a Tahoe City tournament up there. Parada had been the Nevada State champs the year before and had gone to the Nationals. And Jimmy Woodford threw a heck of a game. Shutout, I think his brother Tommy hit a home run, and Bob might have hit a home run too. And we won. And so anyway, we're going to celebrate in Tahoe City. Well, we walked downtown Taos City, and Ed Fontana's got this trophy about this high, puts it right on the table in the restaurant. And just wanted everybody to know that, you know, that we had won that tournament. He did a good job and stuff, so.
Is that the year it snowed?
No, the 1 year it snowed up there, that was actually in June on Father's Day. Yeah, so. And then anyway, the Fireballs, a lot of state tournaments that we played in, Santa Rosa, Chico, Sonora twice, Yuba City. We hosted the state here twice. And then as far as national tournaments, we went to Olympia, Washington, Tumwater. That was a fun one. And then we were down in Sacramento for one. And then we went through Sac Metro to Las Cruces, New Mexico. And then the Fireballs also went to Hastings, Nebraska, and Alpharetta, Georgia. And that's when we had a lot of the younger guys, Eric Holm, Billy Ellis, Dave Campbell. They were starting to come in. And you know these guys had to be good because we took our shortstop and put him at first base because he couldn't play short like these younger guys. So, but anyway, the Las Cruces trip, I got to tell you, this is a funny story. It's 1988. It's in July, and it's a Saturday morning.
How'd you remember the year?
It's a Saturday morning. And I'm out in the field splitting the firewood. I have a wood splitter, and I got wood and splitting. And I see Cindy on the deck like this yelling, got a phone call. You know, no cell phones back then. So I go, who is it? And she goes, it's Lenny. I said, oh, God. So, and I did live here down in Hayward. So Lenny says, hey, he says, what are you doing? And I said, well, just splitting firewood right now. Why? He says, well, you know, we had a couple of injuries. You're still on our roster. Can you come to Hayward? I go, let me see what Cindy wants to do. So I go, hey, how do you want to go to Hayward? And we were starting vacation. She says, yeah, let's go. And then we'll take the kids to Santa Cruz after, like that. So I said, okay. So Lenny tells me what park we're at, Centennial there by the railroad tracks or somewhere. We get down there, and Fireballs is doing a good job, But we got the young guys. Johnny Bain was playing with us. Big Tim Harrison. Anyway, we start winning, and we're out there in that undefeated game. And we played Vallejo Dotson, is that their name? Vallejo Dotson with Pate, is that their name?
Yeah. Hey. So
Yeah. And we weren't favored to win. There's a bunch of young kids, cocky and mouthy and this and that. And we come up and get them extra innings. I think Duke and Heim had the big hits for us. And that game got us into the championship game where we had to get beat twice. And then we ended up beating Coors from Monterey to go to Las Cruces, New Mexico. Well, that was the trip where all the wives says, we're going to this Nationals. You guys always go and leave us home. We're going to go on this one. So anyway, so we get down there, and we didn't play exceptionally well down there, but God, we had a good time. And when we came home, and that was the, I know everybody here, I can tell this story. That's the year we came home from that tournament, and we had a marriage, a conception, and a divorce on that one trip. And the conception was our youngest son, Tori. And if Lenny don't call me that Saturday, Tori might not be here, son. But anyway, a lot of fun doing that. A lot of fun. So anyway, but the basis of the Fireballs again, it goes back to Ed Fontana, Joe and Ocho Bravo, Jack Hutchinson, Woody Hill, Gordon Farrell, Bud Barnes, Kenny Barnes, all those guys. Bob Sinek. I'm looking at, I saw the one team picture from '65, and the ones that are still with us are Uncle Bud, Bob Sinek, and then I think the guy in the front, Ron Fawcett, who was the son of the postmaster. He was on that team. He was in there. Huh?
Team.
Is that the
Team.
Okay.
Team Fawcett.
Yeah. But anyway, why did fast pitch demise here in Colfax? Because at one time Colfax had 4 leagues. There was like 27, 28 teams. Women were playing games 6 nights a week, and the game is based on pitching. You got to have good pitchers. And we were so fortunate. Bud Monroe, Jimmy Woodford, Bud Barnes, everybody thought they were a pitcher on our team. You couldn't tell. You couldn't tell who was and who wasn't. And then we always, when we traveled and stuff like that, at the end of the, we would always like add a pitcher to go. Kevin Patterson played for us for a couple years, did a good job. Jeff Wise right here. Used to play with CSE Insurance, he played with us. But it's based on pitching, and we were so fortunate one year when we had Bud and Jimmy together. And back then there was no A, B, or C. It was you show up and play who's ever there. And we won quite a bit of games, I think 5 tournaments that year. And a lot of fun, a lot of fun. It's, let's see if I can say this right. It's a time in your life where you think the sun isn't going to set. And would trade for anything. Would trade for anything. You want to show that video? Connie has been the person behind getting the Colfax ballpark renamed to what it was originally dedicated for. It's dedicated as the Colfax Area Living War Memorial Park.
The original name.
The original name, yeah. And so she's had to jump through some hoops. She has a fundraiser going right now for the sign that's going to go up over. She's been approved by the city. And so if you go on Facebook and look at Connie's page, she has information there where you can send a donation if you want. And they're going to, I don't know, I'm not going to say rewrite or wrong. It's just as time goes through, people don't realize
Preserve history.
Exactly. That Lions Park there, I think is more, the name is more for the back, where the kiddie park was. A lot of people didn't know that. So, but anyway, this, I don't know, a lot of you guys haven't seen this. In 2006, the media class at Colfax High School did a documentary, Where Are the Fireballs? And they did a really good job. They talked about a lot of things we talked about here. They interviewed Kenny Barnes, Bud Barnes, Duke Barnes, Ed Marson. Thanks to everybody for coming. I forgot to talk about Scotty Royal. He was a big part of the Fireballs. And besides being a player, he coached a little bit, and he was our moral loudmouth. But he was good, and everybody knew who Scotty was, so we miss him. And we miss a lot of the other guys that aren't here. When I coached the Fireballs, before I stopped, my boys started playing Little League, and I got out and kind of gave it to Lenny. And when I say I coached it, it wasn't just me. It was, we put our heads together on a lineup, We said, are they pitching around humps to try to get to somebody? But we would, it was easy for me to make out a lineup. I batted ninth, played right field. Mike Nader batted leadoff. And then we put all the power guys right behind them. And we never had problems, nobody wanted to bat second. And then Kenny Claxton finally figured it out and said, well, let me bat second on that left and get the guy over like that. So we did that. We had a lot of fun doing that. And what I was going to say was teams, when we would play all over the place, Santa Rosa, Tahoe, and Mike Nader would lead off for us. And they would look at me and they says, he's the biggest leadoff I've ever seen in my life. He was. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce, if you guys will come up when I call your name up, ex-Fireballs, Craig Fleener. Kenny Claxton. Ben Fontana. Mike Nader. Jim Adams. Gary Davey. And Kevin Patterson and Jeff Weiss, you play with us. Okay, okay. Huh? Yeah, I was looking over there.
Yeah. I'm deaf like Heinrich. Oh my God.
What's your favorite
No,
story?
You did really?
Yeah, but he said that's his piece. You know, Jimmy's dad.
Lenny, what's your favorite story?
I'm sorry?
What's your favorite story?
I told it.
Stand.
Winning that 36 team national qualifier. That was all the best teams in Northern California that we beat. We went undefeated.
That's what I was getting ready to say, that when you go down to the Bay Area, those teams had some great players down in there. I mean, some great teams down in there, so when the Fireballs would go someplace, well, you play somebody this year, as a Fireballs, and you play them again next year, there'd only be like 4 guys from the original team, because I'm gonna pick up that pitcher over there, I'm gonna pick up, so everywhere you went, everybody was swapping teams except for the Fireballs. They all stayed together.
Yeah.
And that's, when you played like that for years and years, you knew what everybody's abilities and what they could do and what they couldn't do. So,
If you sit down and you think about the years, hell, I had 19 years, Lynn had more than that.
Yeah, when the Fireballs disbanded, I got picked up by a team from Sacramento, and I played more years after that until I couldn't play anymore. Now I golf.
One thing I'll say, you never got away with anything with these fellas. You know, if you had like one moment of weakness, they were on your ass.
Dick says he's got a story here.
So my best story here is when I was in high school, my dad was the assistant postmaster in San Jose. And he was big into sports. He played in the Navy. My grandfather was a professional pitcher, so he was big into it. So he comes home every day, read the sporting page, and in the morning he'd tell me, hey, look here, this guy here, he carries mail for me. He just threw a no-hitter in the fast pitch league, pitched for Food Machinery. And so I'd looked and I'd see his name. I had no idea who he was, right? Well, this guy's name was Bud Monroe. And so many years later, it was such a treat to be able to play with Bud. And when he came up to Ed's Memorial, we were talking, and I was telling him about that. And he told me, he says, you know what, I still have all those articles your dad gave me in my closet. And that was like crazy. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say, when I came to town, when I transferred here with Deb in '82, Deb's cousin is Scott Royal, so Scotty the loudmouth. Yeah. So anyway, Scotty got me on a team in town, and then the next thing I know, I had this man, Ed Fontana, who ended up being someone who disrespected to the utmost, right? He comes up to me and says, hey, you know, how about trying out for the Fireballs? And I went, yeah, I'd love to play. And then I met all these good guys and everything. Well, I worked in law enforcement, right? And some of these younger guys, they like left-handed luckies. So I wasn't sure how it was going to go. And as it turns out, you know, we got all these guys that lifelong friends, great ball players. I was able to coach at the high school with Ed. He wanted me to try to coach there, and I said, okay, I'll coach there if you're my assistant.
Yeah.
And so we coached, I mean, he was a blessing to me. So, there you go.
Hey, and two names I forgot to mention from the older group is Myron and Ralph Schaefer. Long time Colfax Fireballs. Ralph, insurance guy in Grass Valley. And Myron was the cabinet guy here in Colfax, and good ball players. Good ball players. They were a big key to the Fireball success there in the 60s. When they were able to win 4 or 5 championships in that stretch. But good guys. Jim Henry Sr. was a good player. Dick Wayland, very good player. I'm trying to think, my 2 uncles, Ocho and Joe, they were very good. Fred Pitts.
Deb Duke.
Yeah. Well,
Jimmy.
oh no, we went there. Bob Wallington. Sam Newton was our catcher for a few years. He had some really good games. So. again, hey, thank you so much for coming